We're going straight up to China. China is believed to be on the brink of a major food shortage, which might trigger a strategic contest over food security and push Chinese President Xi Jinping already under intense pressure towards drastic measures, potentially spelling trouble for other parts of the world. China has encountered a storm of disasters this year. Floodwaters are estimated to have already destroyed the crops on 6 million hectares of farmland, according to an editorial in the Taipei Times. The situation has been further compounded by plagues of locust and fall armyworm infestation in other regions, where fields have been stripped bare, and 3 huge typhoons last month making landfall in northeastern China. Already, food prices have started going up in that country. How will this impact us here in Ghana? Well, let's now speak with an agricultural economist who will paint a broader picture of how the China crisis impacts the continent. Isaac Hubert Arthur is Executive Director of Africa Center for International Trade and Development at CINTAD. He joins us via Zoom. Hello, Albert. Hi, Albert. Can you hear me? Hubert, I beg your pardon. Hubert, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I do hear you.
Okay, sorry, I think my video is, I don't know what's happening, but the video is not showing. But if you can hear me, then I think we can go on. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Well, good afternoon to you, Hubert, and many thanks for your patience and for joining us here on the show. Now, tell us a little about the Chinese situation.
Yeah, right now China is going through what we call, even though Beijing has said that it is not food crisis, it is what many have said is a food crisis, because China is going through some shortages of food products. They've introduced what they call the clean plate push, which is a campaign to actually ask their citizens not to waste food. So it's a crisis caused by a number of factors, mainly by the COVID-19 situation. The pandemic has really caused a lot of food shortages. As you are aware, during the peak time of the pandemic, all borders were closed. There were not many importations and exportations. So it's really affected a lot of movements of food commodities. So that has also created what China is going through now. They've also had some flooding. They had some flooding earlier on, which has also caused damages to a lot of their agricultural production. So it has also contributed to this shortages. If we can also recall, 2 major food that China really depends on. I mean, it's basically the corn. They take a lot of corn products, and then they also take a lot of pork. And these are heavily affected by the pandemic. So it's also has worsened China's food situation. It's what people are calling food insecurity. Is looming gradually in China, and this has made now you can see a lot of restaurants, a lot of homes doing what they call clean plates. It means that you have to eat every food you are served with. So there is no excess of food. You are served with what you can only eat. Right. And that is very, very interesting. And if you can look at China's population, China has a huge population, right. and a lot of them depend on these food products that they have. So going by that policy, I think it's something that it's similar to what they introduced many years ago, where couples were asked to only give birth to 1 child. So this also is becoming interesting with the food situation, where families are asked, make sure you don't serve food more than what your children can take.
Right.
So people are served small portion just for them to be able to conserve, for them to stockpile a lot of food in China.
It's interesting. It's
so
an interesting.
At the moment, this is what is happening.
Yes. So at the moment, this is the situation. Now the campaign is going on, but the government is denying that it has anything to do with food shortages. Hubert, before I bring our next resource person in, I want you to talk us through why it is important for the government to, so to speak, try and deny this imminent food shortage, even though some newspapers have already reported it.
Yeah, they will deny because, China is known as, the biggest economy according to purchasing power parity terms. It reveals that China, has the biggest economy now. So, and it's also a superpower. And for it to come out that a country like China is going through food crisis, where, as reported, it's not a good news. So obviously, it's something that they will not admit.
Yeah.
It defeats a lot of purposes. Looking at their standing, especially also looking at their trade war with US and all of that. So yeah. It's not a good report, to say that China is in food crisis.
Right.
Looking at the number of countries that are also depending on China for most of their goods. So when the news goes out, it also creates some sort of panic in the international trade system, where especially you have a lot of African countries and then also Asian countries, in fact, depending on China's food basket. So obviously they would have to use a public diplomacy approach to sort of save what is happening now.
Very well. We also know at least that China has had a history of food shortages being connected to political or social unrest. But hang on for me, Hubert. Now, as part of efforts to boost food security here in Ghana, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, embarked on scientific ways of finding solutions. How far have we gone? Let me bring in our next resource person, Dr. Richard Ampedu. He's with the CSIR, also joining us via Zoom. Dr. Ampedu, thank you so much for your time and for your patience.
Thank you.
Would you walk us? Let me also introduce our next guest, also joining us via Zoom, is the Director of Communications for Food Sovereignty Ghana, Edwin Kweku Ando. Hello, Edwin. Edwin, you're muted, and so I'm sure by the next time I come to you, you will be unmuted. So
Good afternoon to your audience. I hope you can hear me now.
I do hear you now. So let me start with you again, Dr. Ampedu. How far have you come with the work you're doing?
I must say good evening to your audience. To walk you through what we have done many years ago, maybe about 7 years ago, the CSR decided to go biotechnology. So we have two crops that we are developing in the field. We have the rice, which we call the new rice, which is the nitrogen utilization efficiency. And then we have the BT cowpea, which is Bacillus thuringiensis cowpea. These are all crops that we are developing using the GM technology. So I must say that we have gone through all the regulatory processes, and today we can comfortably say that we are now working to get the cowpea, the BT cowpea out. We are at the stage where other nutritional activities are being done in the laboratory to test, to be sure that what we have in the new version of the cowpea is not different from the Songotra, which is the local variety for which the gene was inserted.
Interesting.
And then for the rice, we are still at the confined field trial stage. Once it's also ready, we'll go through that same process and come to the stage where we do the environmental release. So far, that is where we have come to with these two crops.
Interesting. Well, looking at what's happening in China, I do know that one of the key exports when it comes to China and Ghana, as in what we export to Ghana is mainly food, to China is what Ghana exports to China, I should say, is mainly food. And so if I'm looking at what the situation is, as Hubert has painted to us in China, do you think from CSIR's perspective that we will be able to take advantage of the situation, so to speak?
Yeah, thank you. I think what is happening in China today, nobody can say that it will not affect Ghana, just for the fact that we are all operating a global economy, picking food from here, sending food from here to that place. So what I would say that the CSIR can take advantage of this. But for now, where we are, like I said, we have not yet released the crop.
Okay.
And therefore, talking about giving it to farmers to cultivate and then produce to be able to be in the position to even export it, we are not yet there.
We're not there yet.
So with respect, with the respect to this technology, I want to say that we are not yet there. But maybe other technologies that we already have in the system, we may look at it and see if we could increase production.
Let me bring in Edwin. Edwin Kwekuando is Communications Director for Food Sovereignty. We know that Food Sovereignty's position is clear. They are against GM food. Edwin, what's your own perspective of what's happening in China as it relates to Ghana? Hello, Edwin, you are speaking, but you're muted. Can you unmute so we can hear you? If you click the unmute button.
Can you hear me now?
I do.
Can you hear me now?
I do, loud and clear. Let's go.
Yes. I'm saying that what the whole Corona and COVID-19 issue has taught any country is that the issue of food security and food sovereignty should be of utmost importance to policymakers. Now, there should be no country coming out of this COVID-19 issue not learning the lesson that we need to stop having your staple foods come to your country through the ports. That if your people mainly rely on rice or yams or potatoes, they must start coming from your country. Ghana needs to learn at one point or another to ensure that we overcome this issue. Every country is going to have to go through this issue. And we have to learn from one point, which is to develop our own reliance on our own abilities to create food. Now, we have the land mass that China is now looking for from a strategic point of view. Everybody knows China is looking for more land in Africa. Why? Because we have the lands that are left for arable land. So from a policy perspective, the COVID-19 issue should be showing us how to be more resilient, how to rely on food systems that come from as closely related fields and lands to your people as possible. That will remove a lot of the politics that has to do with the distribution of food, because the world produces more food than it needs right now. But the politics about the distribution of food is where it ends up not going to where it's needed. So it's common knowledge that there are countries with land lakes, land food mountains with excesses of stock of food. And Ghana must get to a point where we even start realizing that some of the food like dandelion, like alefu, that we're not quick to recognize for their nutritional value are the closest foods that we should be developing. But we are against genetically modified foods because of the unintended outcomes of genetic engineering and the fact that the scientific community itself has no consensus on its safety. So these are concerns that are not only from Food Sovereignty Ghana, they are from a wide constituency of independent researchers all over the world. And we also share their view.
Right. And so 2019, Ghana's exports in terms of food to China was about at least $10.1 million. That's how much money we made. I mean, and this is just a part of it. There's another part of food that is categorized differently that gives us some $1.19 million there as well. So it looks like there's a lot of money to be made. So if the Chinese don't have the land and we have the land and we can develop it, even with technology that enhances the production, why don't we go for it and make some money out there?
Well, it's good when you say technology which enhances production. What you must know, the truth about genetically modified organisms, and different studies have pointed that out. Since the introduction of GMOs, you realize that there has not been any significant increase in yields. In fact, our closest neighbor, our closest example is Burkina Faso, right across the border from Hamile and Paga. They went into a 5-year experiment doing genetically modified cotton. It is common knowledge that the country Burkina Faso has gone back. They've gone back to their conventional strains, and they're getting higher yields. As of about 2 years ago, Burkina Faso was expecting 800,000 metric tons of cotton, which was higher than they ever received when they were planting GM cotton. So it's a myth that GM cotton increases yields. In fact, the latest report, I can provide that for you later to your studio, points this out. There have been independent studies on the research and the work done by organizations like AGRA, which point out that the introduction of genetically modified organisms has not improved the lives of small-scale farmers. It has rather increased their dependency on the value chain of the agribusiness, which provides them the pesticides and the seeds at prices which often, after the introduction, most farmers cannot afford. So we are speaking from real experience. Burkina Faso is our neighbor. They did experience what I'm speaking about. So it's factual. And therefore, it raises a red flag that Ghana, being a neighbor right below this country, should think twice. Do we need to genetically modify our cotton? Do we need to genetically modify our cowpea? You know that we are in court around this issue. So there's only so much detail that we can go to. But we've submitted testimonies from international scientists who have worked on the cowpea for over 30 years. And they hold different views on whether Ghana should be genetically modifying the cowpea or not. And these are facts that will come out at the right time in court. But we hold our position strongly. And you know, we should understand that if I can just, of genetically modified...
Sorry, if I can just bring in Hubert again and then come back to you for your final words with that one, Edwin, I'll be grateful. Hubert, we're doing something at CSIR. I mean, we're still looking at it, we're researching into it. And the thought is maybe there is some money to be made there if we focus on this and take advantage of what's happening in China, for example. But Food Sovereignty Ghana is raising the concern. They say that there is enough evidence to prove that this is not a sustainable way of producing food. What's your perspective in the scheme of affairs? Hubert?
Well, I mean, the point is, what we need is quality. I mean, for me, if we have to use GMOs to get food, to produce a lot of food in Ghana and to be able to export, and it will still be safe enough, and it will meet the requirement of the the international standards, and it will be declared as fit for purpose. For me, I think that is what should be important to us.
Right. Hubert, are you there? Okay, looks like I've lost Hubert. Let me take Dr. Ampedu. Let me take your final thoughts on this as we wrap up this conversation.
Hello?
Yes, Hubert, you're there?
Yes.
Yes, I was taking. Right? Yeah, give me your wrap up comment on this conversation.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's very important, whether GMOs or not. The most important thing is that we are producing food that meets international standards, food that is fit for purpose, is healthy, for the citizens, and it will not create any health problems. Once we are able to do that, but I think there's an opportunity here for us. I think even within the African Continental Free Trade Area, the emphasis has been that let's increase our productive capacity. Let's be able to produce more, because the basic principles of trade, international trade, is that you should be able to produce more.
Yeah. Okay. But Hubert makes the point very clearly. He says that there is an opportunity there to be taken advantage of. His point is, whether it's GMO or not, it just has to be a sustainable way of production, food production. Dr. Ampedu, I'm coming to you for your final thoughts as well. I mean, food sovereignty already, we know their position. They don't agree with some of these interventions that you're making there. What are your final thoughts as you wrap up?
Well, I would like to correct some negative impression about the GM products. When one talks about the Burkina issue, the reality, the challenge has nothing to do with the technology. What it has to do was the lens. The lens did not reach, and the people decided to give the technology to farmers. And that is exactly what created the problem. But I can assure you and tell you that I have been there. And the farmers are now crying that they want the GM cotton back.
Really?
Because they've realized that going back, I even spoke this morning with the coordinator of that project. So that what they are doing now, they are getting it. There is also a bit of politics involved in what is happening in Burkina in terms of the GM cotton. Now we have floods in China, and we are all complaining. We are afraid. We don't know what is going to happen to us. We are also experiencing the same thing. Recently, we can recollect what has happened in the north. So these GM products that they are developing, one of them is to make sure that you develop crops that will be able to withstand flood. So I believe that Ghana has this technology, but now that is what they will be doing. If you don't have it and you are growing the traditional crops, for example, the rice, once the water comes there, everything will sag and you lose everything. But if you have a crop, a technology that is able to withstand drought or floods, then you are there. The BT cowpea that people complain about, basically, the intent of developing this crop is to make sure that we reduce the chemicals that we are applying to our crops.
Okay.
This crop will make sure that you apply 2 times spray or 0 spray, as opposed to the traditional crop where you have to apply 6 to 8 times spray. You save money here, you save the environment, you save people from eating chemically induced food that we don't know. You see, so this is why we are saying that the GM is not something that is coming to replace the traditional crops. But for us in science, we are talking of complementarity so that we will have the 2 crops, the traditional and then the GM working together to give us what we have. Okay. Basically, that is the story we are saying. We are not saying that the GM is a panacea for everything. No. Okay. That is not what we are saying. Well, we are talking about getting something that will complement currently what we have. That is all that we are saying.
Okay. Well, Doc, you are at the stage where you're not done. You're still working on the processes. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's the argument and the counter arguments that we need to be able to make a decision as a country as we move on. Well, China is facing an imminent food shortage problem. Is there an opportunity for Ghana? In 2019, we exported about $10.1 million worth of food. What can we do right now as we stay at this situation? I've been talking to Isaac Hubert Arthur. He's the executive director for Asintat, Dr. Richard Ampedu, who you just heard, CSIR, and Edwin Kweku Ando, communications director for Food Sovereignty Ghana.